Welcome back to another episode of Play by Play presented by Win or Lose Sports. This podcast is in collaboration with the Glass City Wranglers, and today's guest is the new appointed assistant coach for the Glass City Wranglers, Terry J. Awls.
Hey.
Terry, how's it going on this
how's
beautiful
it
Monday?
going, man? How's it going? I'm good. I'm excited to be. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate the opportunity. I really do, and appreciate the support of the Wranglers. So yeah.
So let's get right into it. You got the opportunity to join the Wranglers coaching staff. How did this opportunity come about, and how excited are you about the opportunity of coaching a professional team in Toledo?
Okay, so I was done coaching. So I work with Dennis Hopson. I coach his 17U team, and I help oversee the Hopson Elite AAU program. And then I coached with him at Lourdes University. And after 25 years, I was like, man, because I have a son that plays college football, a son that plays college basketball. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes at Hopson to help us grow that program.
Mm-hmm.
And Zamora has been a guy that I've been a big fan of in the Wranglers for a long time. He always is about positivity and connectivity to the community.
Right.
And he picked up the phone and said, "Hey, are you interested in coaching?" I'm like, coach at the pro level. So,
Right.
it's always been a dream of mine to coach in college. I'm thankful for Dennis, Lourdes University, Coach Eaton, Coach Jake. Those guys give me the opportunity at Lourdes, and then Dennis obviously gave me the opportunity to help oversee his AAU program. So I'm very grateful for that. And when this opportunity came along, I said, okay, I got to check with the wife first.
Right.
So so talk to her. I text my boy, say, hey, yada yada yada, Cameron and Braden, and say, hey, what do you guys think? And my wife gave me the thumbs up, and it was her blessing. So I'm like, I called Zamora back. I said, I can't do every day, and he said, no, he said, whatever we can get. Had a really good coach with the owner, Josh, really good conversation with him. And I'm going to give you guys my all. So I'm super excited about what we can do for the community and kind of what we can do for the brand. I think,
Right.
They've had success over the last 5 years. I want to be able to add to that. So, yeah.
Right. And you've had success in coaching AAU. You won 2 national championships, I believe, 2019 and 2022.
Yeah, so we've had some loaded teams at Hopson. I've been able to coach, Jemiah Neal, Claron Hornby, Kendall Bentley, Jalen Brown. So we've had some talented kids. Kazir McAllister this year, Jaden Baker. So we've had some really nice talent over the past few years. I'm going to give out the shout out to my guy Shane Garcia, who's actually a prep hoops guy, played for us at Hopson. Now he oversees a lot of the stuff within prep hoops, and him and his brother Anthony.
Wow.
So that first class with Hopson, you had some, Stephen Coleman, you had some talent on that team. So we've put 40 plus kids in the college programs over the last 5 years, from the Division I level all the way down. 2 national championships with them. Before then, I was with Ohio Celtics and actually won a national championship with my son down in Atlanta.
Okay.
So we've had success from junior high to high school to AAU to college. So just I'm looking forward to seeing what this next step holds.
Right, and that's kind of my next question. Like, what do you believe are the key factors in taking what you've done in college, what you've done in AAU, and taking that philosophy into the pro level?
I think one, you have to be a pro for them to see you that way, and you gotta just instill disciplines. I had a really good talk with Coach Zamora yesterday. We kind of walked through some of the things he's going to do. Him and Josh have already established that. I just want to come in and be a part of it, whatever I can add or contribute to it. There's a ton of talented guys that are going to be coming to the roster that have called, asked about joining their roster. I just want to be able to coach at a high level and be able to put them in positions to be able to win games. I think if you put in disciplines and have a standard, I think winning is a byproduct of that. Everything else falls into place.
Right. And over the years, I've watched the Wranglers go from the beginning to winning the championship to having MVP players on the team. So
Exactly.
it's there are talented, and most of those players, most people don't know, are from Toledo. Grew
Yeah,
up in the
yeah.
Toledo system, I want to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of local talent. I know the draft is coming up. The combine and draft is coming up next weekend up in Canada, which is a really tough league, but it puts us in a spotlight that we're able to elevate that.
Mm-hmm.
The organization and stuff. Josh has done a fantastic job, and Coach Z. I mean, they've really, you got to give kudos to them.
Yeah.
We would like to get to the level to where you got the mud hens and the walleye. I
Right.
think it's capable of being at that level. I really do.
Let's play at the Huntington Center. Like that. That's where we want to
Absolutely.
be.
I mean, and that's and that's where it should be.
Yeah.
That's it's going to a 6 year. It's not like it's not had success. It has success. So let's take the next step forward. So yeah.
Right. And you talked about working with Coach Hopson, Coach Dennis, who's like a big brother to me. I've known him ever since my father was alive and played basketball against him. So you talked about your experience with the Hopson Elite program. How has Dennis Hopson's leadership impacted your coaching approach?
I think he taught me to be a professional. Dennis is always he's on time. He's no nonsense. If he says it, he'll do it. He puts a lot of his time and talent. I tell you from the AAU side, I can tell you that a lot of his time, talent, and treasure into
Mm-hmm.
that program, pouring in the kids. We've had last few years 140 plus kids in the program, and he takes time to talk to the kids. He goes to the practices, but he's taught me to be a professional. He really has. It's nothing that Dennis doesn't do anything half-assed,
Right.
and that's the one thing I've admired about him, and he's gonna Dennis. If Dennis has always been successful in sports, and now you see his successful in life in the programs that he's building. He's at Bowser now, at Lords. He
Yeah.
built championship programs. The guy's a winner, but it starts with him being a professional every single day. He's very disciplined in what he does, but he's a professional and he knows how to win.
Right. And that approach comes with the development of not just players, but as development of men or
Mhm.
or
Does,
or
yeah. Oh,
athletes.
absolutely. 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 I mean, I can tell you, when he talks to our 17 you guys, he's been there. He's been at the college level. He's been at the
Mm-hmm.
pro level. So when he talks, you got to listen. And then when he runs his practices, I mean, you just listen, and like, he's extremely detailed about the things he does. And he just, I mean, I can tell you that there's a lot of things that people don't know. He does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that have impacted the city of Toledo, which, a lot
Yeah.
of people have got to give Dennis a ton of kudos for.
Right. Going back to your start in basketball, uh, what type of player were you as a basketball player? And
Not very good.
not
That's why
very
I
good.
became a better coach.
Right, right. I want to say that because when you see coaches, the better coaches in the league, especially in the NBA, are coaches who weren't top-notch players because they had time to listen, look, and learn.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I'm a much better uh, coach than I am player. My son, who plays at Trine, we used to play all the time until he got into high school. And I'm like,
Mhm.
when he got into high school, he got bigger and stronger. And I'm like, I'm not taking all that abuse now.
Right,
And so,
right.
I'm proud to say he's a national champion. They won a Division III national championship at Trine.
Wow.
And so just I won't play him anymore because I'm from the old school bad boys basketball. We like no
Yeah.
layup rule, so he don't like to play that way. So he's finesse and he's fast and physical. But I'm like, those days have passed, and like I study more film. I'm a huge Duke fan, so Coach K has been
Yeah.
a big admirer. I've been a big admirer of his, and I admire what he's done with that program. But it's about building relationships, and I'm looking forward to now going into this next level, next challenge, the pro level, just building relationships with the guys. I've got a long standing history with the community. I want to continue
Mhm.
to build that and foster that. I know I grew up in the project, so I always want to be able to make sure that somebody helped me get to this level. So it's my duty and my honor to make sure that I serve the community however I can. So, I mean, coaching basketball has been that venue for me, and I'm blessed to be able to do it.
And I want to talk about the transition from coaching AAU to coaching the junior high AAU level to college now to the professional level, do you see any hindrance in the transition with, because 17, 15, 16, 17 year olds are impressionable.
Mhm.
When it comes to pro ball, I don't say all pro ball, but they know it all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
professionals. These are men. Like, how do you transition that if there are any challenges in that transition?
I think the approach is different. I mean, high school basketball players want to get to the college level. College level guys want to get to the pro level,
Mm-hmm.
and you gotta. Each box is different. The high school level guys, you're trying to teach them fundamentals so they can get to that college level. The college level, you're trying to teach them basic fundamentals to get to the pro level. The pro level, it's all about, okay, do you want to be a professional? Yes or no? Okay, now we're gonna help you sustain that. We're not gonna call you and say, hey, you need to be on time. You're a pro. You're getting
Right.
paid. You got a contract. So that's you're hurting you. So when teams call us and say, hey, so and so, I mean, we can't. I told parents from recruiting, I'm never going to lie to a coach. So if a coach calls me and say, hey, what kind of, I'm going to tell the coach exactly who you are. And so I think you got to build good habits at each level. At the pro level, you got to sustain those habits, because if you want to continue to play, continue to get paid, you got to sustain those habits. High school level, if you're the best high school player on your team, if you have bad habits, the high school coach for the most part is still going to play you. AAU, we don't. Like
Right.
we got 10 kids that are, all state and all districts. So if you don't want to show up, then we'll get to the next kid. Same in college. Then your scholarship's in jeopardy. At the pro level, you're getting a paycheck. I mean, you're providing
Right.
for your family. A lot of these guys are husbands and fathers. So you got to understand that's your job. You got to be a professional. And just teaching these, I say young men, because I mean, they're teaching these guys how to be a professional. Show up every day on time. Make sure you're there. Make sure you're dressed properly. Make sure you're, social media is a big thing, even for the pros. I mean,
Yeah.
putting out the right stuff on social media. We tell our AAU kids, our college kids, about make sure you're putting out the right stuff. You got people with sticking up their fingers and drinks in their hands and all that. And like, that's it. And if you're a pro, you're representing that organization.
Yeah.
Josh and Z, they do a great job on social media trying to help our guys. Okay, kids look up to you in the community. So make sure you're putting out the right stuff. Make sure you're living the right way. You're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but learn from those mistakes. But understand that kids are looking up to you. My son, after a game last week, sat there for 20 minutes or so signing autographs for kids, and I'm like, and to me, that made me feel good, because he took the time. He understands that responsibility. As adults and a pro, you have to under that responsibility 10 times. You really do.
Yeah. Taking that approach, like it's difficult for people to understand that you're not just a player on a team. You are a brand, and you represent a brand.
Dude.
Like, you see it all the time where, like, for instance, this is at the ultimate pro level. Paul Pierce,
Yeah.
a few years ago, worked for ESPN,
Yeah.
retired from the NBA, an adult. He was probably 39 at the time. And a grown man. What he did on social media affected what he did in what affected his professional position, because you are not just representing yourself as a brand, but you're representing that company as a brand. And it kind of it faltered in a way and lost what he had at ESPN.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I think now that the responsibility, I look at LeBron James and Curry and those guys, their social media. I mean, it's they don't get out of pocket about stuff. They understand. They represent the organization. They represent the community they live in. These guys in Toledo, you represent the community. A lot of these guys are from the community. Pour back into that community by making sure these young kids see something in you that they want to be. They're going to be somebody's husband someday. They're going to be somebody's father someday. Show these kids the right way to do it, because some of these kids in our neighborhood come from single moms. I came from a single mom, so I wanted to make sure my son saw something in me that, okay, this is how you do it. I'm not perfect. They know I'm not perfect, but I will represent my family, my brand, my organization the best I can every single time.
You have a culinary background.
I do.
Went to culinary school.
Yes, sir. Graduated at the top of my class. I was the only smoking. I was the only smoke in the house, if you know what I mean.
Wow, that's commendable. At Monroe Community College, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
How did that background in culinary arts influence, or how does it influence now your coaching approach, because I love to cook. I'm not a chef. I never went to culinary school, but I love to cook. You take ingredients. Sometimes I go in the refrigerator with. I didn't go to the grocery store. I have ingredients that are there already in the cabinet or in the refrigerator,
Yeah.
and I can put something together and say, "This is the meal." And she's like, "Oh my goodness, where did this come from?" Like, it comes from creativity. How does that
Yeah.
approach comes into coaching?
Does. It's funny because I'm preparing orange chicken right now.
Mm.
So yeah, that approach when I got to culinary school. So and I tell you, being the only African American in the class, it's like I can do nothing and be average, or I
Mm-hmm.
can work my rear enough to be better than average. I got the Escoffier scholarship. I graduated at the top of my class
Wow.
because I didn't want to be average in that class. And I just, it's carved out a career path for me to where, I do a ton of consulting now with kitchens and restaurants. And so it's that approach is that you never want to settle. You never want to be average. I don't want to be an average husband. Don't want to be an average coach. Don't want to be an average dad. So in that coaching philosophy, okay, I can just sit in a gym and do nothing. And the players like, well, what are you doing? Well, I got a practice plan. I'm going to stick to the practice plan. I'm disciplined. I'm on time. I
Mm-hmm.
just, those things you take from, the college world and stuff like that, because I never wanted to be seen as average. And so, yeah, I mean, it's that same approach is that you have those disciplines. You have to be, on. The thing that bothers me about some of these kids that they don't want to be on time. I
Yeah.
mean, like it drives me absolutely nuts. If you're a pro, if you're an AAU kid or a high college kid, get in the gym 15, 20 minutes early. If this is truly your craft, I'm going to get there early. I'm going to work on some of my weaknesses and stuff like that. In culinary, I would take chances to the point to where I wanted to kind of make sure that I stood out and I was better, not
Yeah.
because of my skin color, but because of my talent. And so I made
Right.
sure that I took that approach every day.
You want to prove not just because of who you are and what you look like, but my skill level is just more elite than the rest.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my senior project, graduation project, I did kangaroo. And people are like, what kangaroo?
Mm.
Nobody ever thought about doing it. So I did kangaroo, uh, seared it. I bled it out for a couple of days. Made a barbecue sauce, and it's a red meat, and so people
Wow.
thought it was steak. I'm like, no, it's kangaroo. And so
Wow.
just to be different,
Yeah.
everybody was doing, I'm gonna do chicken, I'm gonna do shrimp. Nope, I'm doing kangaroo. So
Wow.
yeah.
You've held coaching clinics throughout the region, Great Lakes region, I want to say. Uh, how do you approach that? Like, you have other coaches coming to you to figure out like what's the best approach or how to better their craft. How do you present that to other coaches?
I think I think it's relationships. I've built a ton of relationships in 25 years with, Kenny Blakeney. Is one of my guys. I've got a buddy of mine that works at Duke, and so I'm tied and connected to a lot of coaches, and so when we do something or put something on, I mean, I think people want to know what we know of what we've learned, and I'm still learning. Z and Coach Z and I were talking the other day. I mean, as a coach, you got to constantly learn.
Yeah.
But I mean, Coach Greg Campy, Dennis Hopson, all those guys that you go, oh, this is what I learned from here. This is what I learned from there. And then I'll have people that'll text me, hey, well, if they run this, what do you think I should run here? And I've got high school coaches that have still reached out and like, hey, we're thinking about doing this, et cetera. What do you think about this? Or how do you combat this? And so I think because people poured into me, I got to pour back and I got to give back.
Right.
Whether you are a longtime coach or a new coach or something like that, I think it's important for us to be able to do that. Coach Zamora, I'm looking forward to learning from him and learning from Josh. Some of the stuff that I learned from Dennis. Some of the stuff I learned from Coach Dupree. Those are things that I think are important. And then now, with our AAU program, teaching all these younger guys how to make sure you teach these kids the right way as they come up from
Yeah.
fourth grade, fifth grade. And so it's about giving back. It really is. I think Dennis said this. If he doesn't give back or pour back in, it's why would he do that? He wants to make sure that he pours back in, and then he teaches us coaches to pour back in. So yeah,
Right.
it's the cycle of giving back.
I think that's very, very important because somebody like me who loves the game of basketball, like I can at 47 years old, I'll still go out and try to play with 18, 19, 20-year olds because I love the game. Like
Yeah, yeah,
my father played like all his life. and I started playing just by watching him play.
Yeah.
And my son started playing basketball. And first of all, you talked about talking about your son. He was able to get bigger and stronger than you. Like my father was 5'11",
Yeah.
maybe like 200 pounds.
Yeah.
When I was 14, I was like 5'9". I could not beat my father. Couldn't for the love of God. Like I was shorter than him. I was
Yeah.
weaker than him.
Yeah.
But at
Yeah.
17 years old, I had a growth spurt. I was like 5'10", 5'11", same height as him. I was like, you know what? I can jump higher than him now because he's old. Like he's probably like 18, 19 years older than me. So he was like 36 or 37 years old. So I could jump higher. He wasn't old, but at 17,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is an old man. I
Yeah.
can jump higher than him. So that's when I first beat him at 17 years old. Like, you know what? I'm better. But you know what? That game is different.
Yeah.
When he's out there on the floor, he can shoot from 37 feet, and he's dishing the rock and playing defense
Yeah.
and running a fast break. That's a different game than playing 1-on-1. I
Yeah.
played I beat my son up until he was 17 years old. Then he had a growth spurt. He was 6'3". So
Wow.
I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
Both my boys are taller than me. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, oh my god, there's no way I can beat him now because he's a tremendous athlete. But that just tells like the story of, you know, father and son, like how you teach them is how they're gonna be better than you. Because I always tell my kids, I want you to be better than I was at what
Ooh,
I do.
absolutely. I mean, I think I've got a 9-year-old. I can beat him now, but
Right.
that's going to be that's going to be short lived. But again, I mean, I took Cameron and Braden to the east side where I grew up. This is where I grew up at. I grew up in the projects, and you want your kids to appreciate
Yeah.
what they have and understand that I worked hard here so you didn't have to struggle. And we again, like you said, we want our kids to be better. I want my kids to surpass anything I've done. I've done a little bit. I want them to go be game changers, change the
Yes.
world, be
Yeah.
difference makers in the community. That's what I want my sons to do.
Now looking ahead at your future aspirations in coaching, long term, short term. I know you don't want to, move away from the Wranglers right now because this is where you're at. But where do you see uh you're like where you are now and helping with the AAU program? Where do you see yourself uh going from here?
I've always had aspirations of being a NBA scout.
Hmm.
Um, I've I just think it's a unique job. I can fly around and be back home, but I can make a living and I can help impact young men have their dreams come true.
Right.
So that's been my ultimate dream. So when this job came up, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's is that God telling me this is one step closer to that dream that because
Right.
you can't say, well, God, well, you had an opportunity to coach at the Wranglers, you passed it up. Well, and that's
Hmm.
why prayed on it, talked to my wife, and like, okay, this is probably that next step.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how I can learn the program because it's a lot different than the
Yeah.
college game. College game is a lot different than the high school game. But then, there's a lot of shooters and a lot of talent in the league, especially with us being up in Canada now. So I'm looking forward to just seeing the skill set. Okay. And how can I utilize, our team to be better? How do we counter in Ghana? Again, it's about me learning, but then, okay, now I see what you do. Now I can help counter that and help our team win. So I want us to be the best representatives of the community, of the organization, coaching staff, and these guys have to be representatives of their families. So looking forward to that. But yeah, ultimately, I would love to be an NBA scout.
Since you mentioned the NBA, let's talk about the NBA. Like the NBA game has changed from when we
Yeah.
were growing up in the '90s. Jordan, Ewing, uh, Charles Barkley, Charles Oakley, that type of mentality on the floor. Dennis Rodman. You had players like Gary Payton, ultimate defenders
Oh
and
man.
ultimate mid-range players and offensive juggernauts and defensive juggernauts at the same time. Now the NBA is uh, Kawhi with the ball in the middle. Let's spread the floor. Let's dish and drive and dish, most likely. Or you got shooters coming off the wing for a 3-point shot. The game has changed like tremendously.
It has. It has.
How do you see that transition happening? Like, how does that happen for the NBA?
I think when Curry started making 50-foot threes,
Yeah.
people thought that's how the game's supposed to be played.
Yeah.
So you have Tracy McGrady said something perfect the other day. He said that the NBA game has changed. You know, here in the U.S., we think a sixth grader doing a step back fadeaway shot is a good shot. Like, no, go to Europe. Those guys are fundamentally sound. They're gym rats. Not that our guys aren't, but you know, learn how to set a good screen and with the proper angle of the screen. You know, it's all threes and dunks and stuff like that. I mean, like very few NBA teams run like good sets where you're going to get something out of it. It's one-on-one here. It's, you know, middle ball screen here, but there's not, and everybody's standing around watching. You know, there's like I think the college game is the purest game because there's actions in it. You know, everybody's moving, everybody's screening. You know, back cuts or something like that. High school game, you know, there's I know in our area there's very few good high school basketball coaches, which means there's very few high school good programs.
Right.
The NBA has kind of distorted as like, oh, you got to shoot a deep three. Okay, you get 3 points for it. You don't get any extra points, or you get a dunk and people are patting you on it doing this. It's 2 points, no big deal. Go back down, let's play.
Yeah.
And the defense is not as good in the NBA. It's most teams aren't stopping you; they're just outscoring you.
Yeah.
And that's I know Coach Z and I we want to build defensive principles. What I want to be able to shut teams down. You know, I want to be able to stop teams from what they're doing. I want to be able to shut down their best player. You know, I want to be able to make them uncomfortable. You know, I think it's got to get back to that, and it probably will never get back to that.
No. And I've talked about this before. Like when you look at back at the 90s, 1989, 1990 world champion Bad Boys, they took pride in stopping the best player on the other team.
Absolutely.
They took pride in stopping teams averaging 80 points a game defensively. Like they took pride in that. The Chicago Bulls, the 95, 96 Chicago Bulls took pride in blowing teams out, not by scoring, but by defensively. They stopped them. It was a game they played against the Utah Jazz in the NBA Finals in 1998. It was, I think, 101-65. That's it, because they took pride in stopping the Jazz from scoring and then ultimately outscoring them, but not by shooting threes, but by playing the game at a pace and playing defensively. You'll never get that on.
You know, you don't. Dennis talks about this all the time about playing the game the right way. The NBA, I mean, very few. You get 28 NBA teams, 29 NBA teams. Very few of those teams play the game the right way. It's all about, okay, I got my one star. Okay, we're gonna go pick and roll basketball. And you got three guys. Then, okay, are you paying those guys to stand? Or I mean, and then you got guys coming off the bench and they do the same thing. I mean, it's just it's repetitive. It's the NBA brand has gotten worse, even though the game has gained in popularity. The WNBA game. Now that you talk about good pros right there.
Yes,
they can play. They run good sets. They play defense. It's a much better brand. It really is.
And I was talking to Coach Lionel Armstead a few weeks ago about the difference or the dichotomy between the women's game and the men's game. I'll sit and watch 10 women's college basketball games and 10 women's WNBA games before I watch 5 NBA games, because the fundamental of the women's game is so pure and so enjoyable to watch. NBA game is not that. The last time I can say that I've seen pure basketball was the 2017 Celtics when Brad Stevens was the head coach. Celtics is my team. That's why I can quote.
Brad Stevens was a hell of a coach. So I'm a Duke
guy.
So
he had offense in his head. He had defense in his head. And I think I don't want to speculate, but I think that's why they removed him as coach, because that's not the brand of basketball that the NBA wants. They don't want to
Not
see
popular. It's not
slow
fun
down.
to
Yeah,
watch. Yeah.
exactly. It was slow down
It's not
offense, but
entertaining.
it was pure basketball though. I
Mhm.
enjoyed that basketball. Now it's Jason Tatum at the top of the key. He's going to throw it over to Jaylen Brown. He's going to be at the top of the key too, and the wings are going to just go back and forth and see who's open. No, I don't enjoy that.
Yeah, it's I the WNBA game. I know they coach. They got a new coach. The Actually, it's the Valkyries.
Oh
Out
yeah,
west.
yep,
And you know they just do a fantastic job. And you look at the Sue Birds and all of them that when you watch them play, they're coming to get you. They don't
yes,
want you to score. They're gonna knock you down. That I mean, and it's not dirty. It's not.
no,
But that's you talk about the way the game should be played. The NBA game should learn from those guys because
mm-hmm,
those ladies are super talented. They can
yep.
play, but they're going to defend. And I don't. I mean, Jesse, you think the coaching is probably better? Is that because they're the coaches are going to be reflected? The teams are going to be reflective of their coaches. So I mean, I would take the WNBA from a fundamental standpoint, and their popularity has grown big time.
Yes.
You know, so their games are very, very entertaining, very fun to watch. They're gonna guard you, going to defend you. So I would definitely agree with you on that.
Now going back to the Wranglers season this year, uh, I want to ask, what are your expectations for yourself as a coach, and what are the expectations as a coach for the team? I know you're just stepping into this role, but what do you expect from the team?
Um, I say for the team, I expect us to win and be successful. I mean, I, I always I use the remember the Titans. I win. You know, I
Right.
can. I've got a winner's mentality. Coach C's got a winner's mentality. Josh, you know, we're all winners. We're not putting this team together for us to not be successful. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, they're going to be one winner. But we've got the recipe for success. For me as a coach, just learning the pro game. You know, I know in Canada is going to be, you know, the bigger arenas and stuff like that. You know, I want to learn. So
Right.
I'm going to be a sponge. I'm going to ask questions. But yeah, I want to learn from Coach Zamora and Josh. You know, okay, what does this entail? I don't know what success looks like at the pro level because I haven't seen it. So I'm
Right.
looking to learn what that looks like.
And you've had plenty of success, and I want to commend you
Yeah,
for
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
what
I've
you've
had good
done.
teams. I've had
Yeah.
good teams. So I
Well,
mean,
good team, but you can have good teams and still fail
yeah,
at success because as a coach, we've seen it before. We've seen it on the pro level,
yeah,
and you had
yeah,
the Lakers had Shaq, had Kobe, had
yeah.
Karl Malone, had Gary Payton, ultimate All Star team, but could not win the championship. It took Larry Brown and the Detroit Pistons and that team, you know, kind of win that by showing how to outcoach or outplay a superstar team, because there was no superstar on that team.
Yeah,
So
that
as a
is true.
coach, it takes a coach to take a team with with many talents to put together and say, okay, this is our ultimate goal. Galvanize the team and say, hey, this is the goal, and this is where we're going to reach. So I commend you for your success and
I,
how you've been teaching over the years, and how all the success you've had in Hopson in high school, and now the promotion to assistant coach at Glass City.
I appreciate that. And again, it's I learned about building relationships. I think these no player don't care how much you know till they know how much you care, and that's at any level. You know, treat them with respect, but you tough love is discipline, and if we're all rowing in the same direction, they understand. You know where the teaching is coming from, where the instruction is coming from. But yeah, you know, I just reached out to Jemiah Neal, you know, just wish him
Mm-hmm.
luck, you know, Claron Hornby, those guys, you know, I've coached those guys years ago. You know, Kendall Bentley, who's out from River Rouge, is getting ready to start his college basketball season, and so just you know, I've maintained relationships with those guys, and you know, I've players that text me Happy Father's Day and Happy Birthday. It's about relationships. It's about respecting them, but allowing them to be who they are, and
Yeah.
then helping them be the best version of themselves. So yeah.
Well, I want to congratulate you on the
Appreciate it.
position. I want to thank you for taking your time out today to be on the show.
I'm honored, man. Appreciate you.
And we look forward to partnering with the Glass City Wranglers throughout the season to do more interviews, pre-game, post-game interviews with the Wranglers. So I'll be in touch with you again sometime during the season.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jesse. Appreciate you having me on, man. Best of luck.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks everybody for watching this episode of Play by Play. You can watch it on YouTube, on the website winnerloseshow.com, and listen to it on all podcast platforms. That's iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you download your podcasts. We'll see you next time.
All right. Kudos to you, my man. Appreciate all you do for us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.